I can't get into this just because the title is making my eyes hurt. Is Star Citizen a scam? Here we go. There is
Warning. Incoming salad vibes.
I gotta force myself here, don't I? All right, everyone. Let's watch Is Star Citizen a scam? I've never seen this one before. I've never seen this one before. All right. Okay.
So I swear this one isn't meant as clickbait, and it's just something that
thank
I've
God.
noticed.
Thank God. I like that he started it out that way. Who is this? I like that he started it out this way. Oh my goodness, it's Don Steeler. Oh my goodness. He's a member of the Communitai. Don Steeler is a member of our DG360 Communitai. Nice to see you, bro. Nice to see you. All right. All right, got me with the title, got the algorithm with the title. Now let's hope there's some rational. I've talked to him before. He seems like a rational guy. Let's hear what he has to say.
That crops up.
Yeah, I do see the referral
certain
code,
points
though.
in the development cycle, particularly in the last year, and being older and having interacted online and chat rooms and like since the early 90s. If someone says something that's, hang on, obviously inflammatory or clearly meant to start an internet argument, I'll usually just ignore it.
Good.
If it seems like there's some sincerity behind it, or if they make a valid point, I might engage a little bit just in spite of my...
No, you make fun of them. I gotta teach you everything. You shame them and you ridicule them. I mean, come on, everybody knows that. Don Steeler. I'm very rational, by the way. I'm very rational. Super rational. No, not. Oh sorry. I don't know what that was.
A better judgment. But a common comment that I've seen kind of popping up lately, both on my own channel, now that I've kind of hit a surge in the last couple weeks, is Star Citizen a scam? And so, is it? Let's get this. All
right, he's got me hooked. I like it. I like the editing style. He's drawn me into the conversation. I don't know what this is.
Okay, fine. Let's get this with a little more detail. This is one example of the usual comment or hot take or show that you'll commonly see pop up on occasion. So first off, just because someone has a sincerely held opinion, that doesn't mean that their opinion is above critique or that their opinion can't be wrong. If someone has a deeply held opinion that cars are made from unicorn dreams and powered by walrus farts, that doesn't mean that they're correct or that their opinion is unassailable because it's just an opinion. If someone has an opinion that is demonstrably false, that doesn't suddenly make it valid simply because it's an opinion.
Facts.
So a little bit about my background. I worked as an HR payroll accountant for 2 decades before making the leap over to the legal world.
That means he dealt with a lot of crazy accountants, and let me tell you something about that. That's dangerous. Do you know what happens to you when you stare at numbers all day? Do you? Do you? Then this man had to deal with those people. Let me tell you something. That deserves one of these.
Yes, sir. You're not gonna eat me.
This man, Don Steeler, has got some serious fortitude. If you're an HR dude working with accountants, you've got some serious fortitude and stability in you, bro. Keep that up. Keep it up.
I just needed a change of scenery after dealing with numbers for 20 plus years.
Yes,
but that also means that I have a better understanding about this particular subject than most people do. So Addressing this comment,
Oh, I like that, Aether.
is Star Citizen
You're paying
a
attention.
classic Ponzi scheme?
You're paying
Here's
attention.
a very, very brief explanation of what a Ponzi scheme is. At its core, a Ponzi scheme is real similar to a
We need to
pyramid
hire
scheme.
Aether.
For
Pepe.
this particular argument, if Star Citizen were a Ponzi scheme, how it would work is that the person at the top, Chris Roberts in this case, would go out and get investors for a made-up project. These investors are promised wild returns of money for their investment. In turn, they then get other investors on board. And this is where the scheme starts. The money does.
But let's be clear about this, because I know the very impetus, the origins, pun intended, of how Star Citizen started. And Chris did get VC money. Welcome to the film, Elder. So this thesis is actually not going to work in this instance, because when they started, before even the Kickstarter happened, they did pool in VC money for the project. At least, again, that's according to a gentleman we interviewed on the channel here who was a VC of Star Citizen. So that did happen, unless that gentleman is lying. But the talk I had with him was an interesting and long one, and I happen to believe him, and that is, again, based upon my experience and opinion.
Doesn't come from selling international reply coupons like Charles Ponzi was saying. There is no business. Everything is just smoke and mirrors. There is nothing being produced. All the money is being generated by the investors.
10 plus years of
the
doing this,
person at
Chrono.
the top scrapes off the most while throwing
it's a bit of
just
time.
enough at the people who are first in to keep them invested, both monetarily and psychologically. In a pyramid scheme, you don't actually make money selling whatever cheap garbage the front is creating. Supplements, knives, books, cheap furniture, clothing, or whatever. You make money by getting people to sign up to sell stuff. Of course, those people have to buy the stuff from you, and that's where the money really is. The people investing in the project and making that buy. Then you get a cut of what they purchase from the front and whatever sales they might make, but that's not really important.
Which is why Bucha pulled out, I think, in 2014, 2015. The gentleman that I spoke to, his name is Bucha. And he was a VC, and he just pulled out. And one of the reasons why he was so vehemently opposed to Star Citizen's development, because in his mind, as a VC, he wasn't getting any return in any timely manner. So understandable on his part as a VC why he was upset.
You get a percentage of what they make, and the person above you gets a percentage of what you make, and so on up the pyramid. The wealth of the scheme isn't generated from the product. If a product even exists at all,
I bet
it's
so.
pretty much
I bet
all
so,
generated
Aether.
from the investors.
I haven't heard from him in a while.
The goal of the scheme is to never actually produce anything. The money all comes from the investors. The bulk is skimmed off the top, then the fake return is given to the earliest investors to keep them invested.
By the way, let's just be clear. You know, according to him, there are VCs. There are people who are collecting on it because they were the initial, as they should, capitalism. It's capitalism. So people who have a problem with that, it's like, hey, that's capitalism. Do I define what he's defining? Do I define this as a Ponzi? Like, you know, how he's trying to set this up? He's not saying Star Citizen is. He's trying to separate Cloud Imperium from a Ponzi. Let me be clear about this. Everything in life that involves currency, money, is a Ponzi scheme. Everything. Let's not fool ourselves as human beings. We are greedy, and money, in an essence, was to give us what we wanted easier by tangible value exchange. Here's value I have versus value you have. I need this done for me. What is your tangible value amount that you need from me? That is currency. That is money. That is acquired through producing goods, services, and also directly tied to a game that is all a pyramid and a Ponzi. We are all living in a Ponzi. Everything is a Ponzi.
I'm in a fountain.
Hi, welcome to DG360. I just want that to be very clear to everybody watching right now. You're all part of the game, whether you like it or not. So acquire your freedom units in whatever tangible kind of manner you want, in whatever variety you want that you think is best for you, and gather up those nuts, store them. It's going to be a long winter. Winter is coming. Store up your little nuts, squirrels. Store up your little nuts.
Investing, and then everyone down the chain gets a smaller and smaller cut. It feeds off the newer investors
Ponzi scheme.
or the newest investors who usually get nothing except a garage full of supplements they can't sell to anyone. Since more people have to be added to keep the charade going, it eventually crumbles. It happened to Charles Ponzi. It happened to Bernie Madoff. It always inevitably happens. One thing you don't see in a Ponzi scheme is...
Right, which is why I meant... So Aether said fiat currency is a Ponzi. Yeah, but not everything attached to it. I mean, yes, you're correct in terms of production and services, like I mentioned. Yes, but that is ultimately tied to the very top of that pyramid, which is money and greed. But also, I think what Aether's trying to separate out from the Ponzi is just actual needs, like wants and needs. And he's trying to say, hey, DG, like, I don't necessarily think that currency in essence is attached to this giant pyramid that you speak of because of these wants and needs that we have, our demand. You know, we can get into a supply and demand discussion if you would like, Aether. That would be very fun. Maybe I have Aether on, we talk economics. And then as we talk economics, we hear this. Because I've talked plenty of economics on the channel, and this is what actually ends up happening. I personally love to talk about the economy, and it makes me feel like this, Aether. It makes me feel like that. Ooh, give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire. But see, a lot of people, when you start talking about the economy and everything, they go right to sleep. I got to get more active on the trade channel again.
It's actually something real being built. Right. You don't see real innovation. It's never transparent. Like Madoff, he was using a proprietary trade tactic that was top secret and no one could see.
Thank you,
the
brother.
People at
Anarchy,
the top
I need
didn't
to be
really
giving
care
you money
because they were seeing huge returns. What they were actually seeing was just a cut of what Madoff was scheming off of everyone else. How many people were involved in Madoff's scheme? So 3, and that includes Madoff himself. So why so few? Because the more you split the wealth, the less you have for yourself.
Okay, here's another thing I would like to say about this that we're discussing is Star Citizen a scam. These are, what, 1,000 people now in 5 locations. The business is very tangible and real. And then I get comments that say, oh, but so is Enron. They had people. They did. Here's the thing. We're seeing the production. They are being transparent. We are seeing the work that they are producing. The work is tangible. The work is real. You're logging in. You're playing it. Might not be up to your standards. It might have bugs that get you upset. But and yet it does have... there is production happening. We can see the production. You're in it. You're playing it. Real people made this. You know, so like this whole Enron comparison to Cloud Imperium is completely flawed. Just completely flawed.
One thing you don't see in pyramid schemes and Ponzi schemes is a large institution of workers producing a thing where the thing itself is supposed to make money.
Right.
And that is literally a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, I would agree in
So
that.
is
I would
CIG
agree
a Ponzi
in that
scheme?
regard. I would agree in that regard to Don. I mean, that AI is not the best to be using, though.
No, you don't open up
I don't know.
studios.
I don't know if I had to use that footage. We got a long way to go. We got a long way to go till we're all happy. So I mean, yes and no. Seriously though, he's right. He's right. We're in it. We're playing it. We're all having experiences in it. We're actually having a good time. I would not compare this to an Enron type of environment at all. It's like a complete inaccuracy. Anybody that's comparing the two doesn't understand the industry. They don't understand game development. And frankly, I would question their financial background and if they knew anything about economics.
No, you don't open up 4 studios, hire nearly 1,000 employees, and start pushing out video games, buggy as they might be, dumping the vast majority of that capital back into creating the project and paying payroll. Is CR taking a cut? Hell yeah. Guess what? So do all CEOs. That's kind of the point of starting a business. It's rarely a charity. But
they also aren't a public company, so nobody can give them any say so on like how they need to be doing things in terms of splitting up their money and splitting up their salary. So that's a valid concern I see that people have, is like how they're splitting up the salary and the income, and I understand that completely. However, I do believe that in this case, the CEO deserves one of the largest cuts because he's the dreamer. He's the one that made it happen. He created something from nothing. He's the one who did the blood, sweat, and tears. When he's laying down at night next to Sandy, Sandy's like, oh shit, here we go talking about Star Citizen again. And that's because he's in love with the project. He loves his wife, but he's still talking about Star Citizen every night before he goes to sleep because he loves what he's doing and he's making it happen. He's the person, he's the reason, and whatever money he wants to take from that is his prerogative to fucking take it because he's doing it. And for people that get upset, like, I could understand if this was a public company and you were a shareholder, but I cannot understand it because they are a private company. The only shareholders they got to worry about are the interior ones, the people at the top taking the largest cut of that cream. Why are they doing that? Because they started this and they have the right to do so. So I don't get the argument where people go after people like that. I just don't get it.
Star Citizen or something like it is clearly something CR has wanted to make for a long, long time. Even with Wing Commander, that ambition was there. And we saw a piece of it with Privateer and Freelancer, but the tech just wasn't there. Or the time. The production companies he is working for didn't necessarily give him the time and money to create the thing that he wanted to create. And then Space Games kind of dried up for a while and he went on to other things like making movies. Producing movies, I suppose.
Then he came back to gaming.
I can guarantee that this dream has been nagging him for probably close to 3 decades now. And with
nagging is an understatement. I'm just saying.
Crowdfunding, he was finally able to realize it on his own terms. So what do I think is actually behind at least most of these scam comments? While there's definitely some people who just want to see this project fail spectacularly because they like to watch the world burn, there's definitely others who sincerely feel like they were scammed. Let's get into that because it's actually a lot more interesting topic than the White Knight versus Scam Citizen argument. I'm guessing
you don't get those anymore,
of these
right?
cases, it comes down to money.
Someone
sad. Threw money at this project thinking it was going to be released in a year or two, or spent money they didn't have, or ended up needing that money that they spent at some later date, and now they blame the project.
Before you put your money in anything, don't you guys like take the time to research and figure out what is it you're getting into? These kiddos, man. These kiddos, they just automatically jump the gun and put their mama's credit card in, and they just buy their internet spaceship not knowing what they're getting into because they're kiddos, man. That's their own fault. They need to check out what it is. They need to watch videos. I mean, the material's out there, the content's out there. It's just a pure lack of laziness that these kiddos, when they get upset, they don't do the work that it takes to actually know what it is to even want to buy this game because they haven't taken the time and they just listen to everybody go, ooh, it's great in their Discord or something, or ooh, it sucks. And they just go, oh, let me try it. Boom. They put their mama's credit card in and they buy their internet spaceship and then they go, oh, I don't like it. I mean, like, give me a break, man. Any adult, anybody with an IQ over 9 would literally take the time out to look at what it was they were getting before they bought it. I don't understand it, man. Got this section of society that is just so like, feed me, bleh, feed me. Like, I don't understand, man. Just like, know what it is that you're eating before you put it in your motherfucking mouth.
I can kind of get that. I don't really agree with it, but I get it. I've been burned in the past and I can get that anger. On the flip side, I don't think CIG is totally blameless here either. There's 2 things that I can point to that make CIG an easier target than they would be otherwise.
I like that you posted this, Redbear. This is a good video.
Without an actual window into the decisions being made, or why they were made, or why certain ideas were played up, played down.
And this is the damn truth here. Red Bear says, I hear researching and looking into it is something that is not that common anymore. At least that is what I hear from others. And I absolutely believe, because there's a dumbing down of the world right now. There's a dumbing down of the entire world right now that's ridiculous. I see it everywhere I go, man. It's like the whole world's dumbing down. It's like Idiocracy. That movie's coming true, man.
Or abandoned, it's kind of hard
Good job,
to
Super
honestly
Moderate.
say
I like this video.
why Star Citizen has proceeded the way it has. I know when I was planning out a similar project back in the early 90s, my plan centered around releasing a single-player demo, getting funding from a venture capitalist based on that demo, making a single-player game, which would then fund a multiplayer game, which would finally fund the massively multiplayer game. We had plans, models, concept art, design documents, and nearly 1,000 pages of plotting out just the first game in the series. And then the .com crash happened. It never got funded. Plans change when they meet reality, I guess is what I'm saying. To CR's credit, and Aaron and Tony Z and Sean Tracy, Aether, and on.
Because the information age became the misinformation age, right, Aether? Aether says, isn't it really scary how little people bother looking into stuff anymore? I mean, the level of talking on stuff you don't know about has just gone into overdrive.
Yes, sir. You're not gonna hate me.
Dude, I could not agree more with you, Aether. Like, everything, everywhere I look is just confirmation of what you just talked about, dude. Everything.
These guys actually do have games under their belts. They've released games in the past, big games. So while I think it's fair to question some of the decisions made over the last 10 years of this project,
it's the age. There's so much information out there, and there's so many people that are hooked into this right now that the age of information became the age of disinformation.
I'm in a fountain.
You heard it. You heard it here first on DG360. The age of information became the age of disinformation. Don't forget it. Don't forget it.
To question the ambition of the project. But yeah, it's totally possible the ambition and chasing the new shiny thing got in the way of that initial organization that has to happen to actually get something released and out the door. It can't really be argued that progress on this project has been glacially slow. Part of that is that CIG is doing things that no other game company would try to do up to this point. Why? Because it would cost too much and take too much time. Why work on a single piece of tech for 5 or 6 years when you could just grab an existing engine with existing mechanics and just release a mild upgrade of what's already out there, already selling? EA's been doing that for decades, and the profits CIG has seen in the past 10 years aren't even a fart in the whirlwind compared to the kind of money EA pulls in. So for my opinion, do I think making Squadron 42 in the Persistent universe concurrently was a mistake? Yeah, probably. You could argue that both games benefited from each other, but you could also argue that developing them both at once slowed the progress and blew up the planning for both.
That's an interesting take. I would say this to counter, to kind of in juxtaposition of that, for an argument, I would say that I think that the solo play of Squadron 42 and what's being planned there directly feeds into the PU. I think that when the PU came into existence because the backers wanted it to be that way and voted it to be that way, because it is the everything game, because we wanted everything from this title and from the developers. I think when that happened, I think at that point, it was a little sloppy, but over the years, I think they've found a great way to basically have these teams interact with one another in the Squadron 42 team, in the PU teams, in their departments, and basically have everything they're working on from Squadron 42 kind of feeding into the PU. I think that's a good way to go about it. Now, how that communication is within the company and the symbiosis between those people and those devs, I'm not quite sure about. And that's a whole nother conversation.
both projects. You could certainly argue that certain aspects of this game should have been nailed down years ago, like the flight model and weapon balance. Granted, some of that was due to Planetech, which definitely threw a wrench into CIG's plans, in a good way and a bad way. We weren't supposed to have fully realized and explorable planets. We were supposed to have a handful of landing zones reached by a cutscene, much like an upgraded privateer.
But we voted for more.
I think most people would agree what we have now is better.
Yes.
It
Took a
definitely
while.
came at the cost of time, money, and focus.
And good. It should. It should.
Yes, sir. Can I get an amen? Yes.
And they like the kiddos, they do not understand what this game is trying to do. In scope, it is the biggest. In scope, it is the biggest out there ever in development. The biggest. In scope. Just that alone. Just that fact. You should know it's going to take a long time for this to do. Add in what they want to do and have like this crazy field of ships with different amounts of crew in them, thousands plus, adding real world meshing, server meshing with little to no latency, man. This has never, ever been done before on this scale. The scale is off the chart. It is going to take a long time, period. Some of the tech has not even been invented yet. What they are trying to do is push the boundary of the space. What people should realize is they should root for them for being a pioneer, for being a dreamer, to give you the experience that you want. You cannot have it now. It will take a long time. Period. The end. The end. Deal with that. We will get there when we get there. It is easy to close your eyes and shrug it off and say it's a scam. It is easy to be a naysayer. It is easy to be a content creator getting those clickety clacks and say, oh, bleh, eh. It is hard to be the dreamer. It is hard to step forward at all the storm hitting you. When everybody's telling you you can't do it, it is hard to operate in that environment. And people that can and get through to the other side and effectively get through it, they'll get it. They'll get it. They'll get their game. But you're not going to get there by rolling your fucking eyes. Period. Period.
The whole design of the game had to change to accommodate the tech. So should it have? I think that is open for debate.
Fingers.
I like landing on planets.
Patience and long suffering.
Wanted star system 5.
Like Finger says, patience and long suffering. You have to be a fan of pain. Are you into pain?
Years ago, maybe they disagree. Those are valid disagreements. Those are actual opinions that we can tease out into discussions. CIG has definitely benefited from giving their devs some freedom to just get out there and be creative. But the downside of that creativity is that sometimes those side paths lead to dead ends, and that dev time is more or less wasted. And other items that could have and probably should have been bigger priorities were further pushed back. Likewise, there's aspects of the funding model that seem a wee bit predatory. Granted, no one has to buy all the ships and overpriced paint jobs, but the FOMO is real, and just telling people, hey, you only ever have to buy a starter package. Do not just buy everything that CIG pushes out. It will all be available in game. Sometimes that fear of missing out, that desire to collect things that are perceived as rare or one-time offers is hard.
Because kiddos don't get it. Kiddos don't get it, man. If people are buying multiple ships, it's for one or two reasons. One, you just have a love for the game and the passion, and you want to be involved with the journey. Or two, because you have your mother's credit card. Put that back. Put it back right now. This is not the game you're looking for. This is not the game you're looking for.
hard to deny for some people. And it kind of seems like these people are being specifically targeted in this funding model. So yeah, that's another thing that's fair game.
I hope
and
some
sure,
of you are following
some people
along.
can just not buy something.
I hope some of you are on my level.
CIG could also shift their funding model so it felt a little less skeezy. And then the question would be, what model would they adapt? Subscription, microtransactions?
No.
Again, CIG settled on selling ship concepts
Thank
with
you,
a
Limitless.
backdrop of false
I can always
scarcity.
count on you, dude.
That said, the Odyssey was the last big ship we got, and that was IE of 2021. Since then, most of the ships have been pretty small and, in the grand scheme of Star Citizen, relatively affordable. Part of that could be the hard shift to Squadron 42 sucking up ship resources and dev time, but who can say? COVID definitely slowed things down for a year or two also, pretty much for the whole world. So is Star Citizen a scam? No. Could it have been better planned and executed? Could their funding model be different? Sure, probably. And those are certainly valid topics open for debate. But on the flip side, and at the same time, it's also possible that it's easier for some people to believe in a grand conspiracy or a scam than it is to admit that they might have made a mistake. That said, here we are. And what happens from here is largely and sometimes frustratingly out of our hands.
Yeah, I like
That's all I got
like
for this one, gang. Catch me next time.
That was a great video. I actually dug that. That's from one of our own members, Don Steeler, and he is a very rational guy and a fan of the Banana Fountain. Thank you, Don Steeler. I appreciate you and being a part of this Communitai, the DG360 Communitai.
Banana Fountain.
I'm going to like that. I'm going to post that link here in our live chat. I'm also going to put that down in the description. And don't shame us here on DG360. This particular video has 641 views. He only has 586 subscribers, and it's 17,500 plus, almost 18,000 subscribers. Right now, my Star Citizen content is almost getting less views than this right now. So I would like to shame my own Star Citizen audience.
Shame.
Let's not forget
Shame.
that we're here to help the little
Shame.
guy. And don't DG360 ever be the little guy. Ever. You like and you share the videos. If you're a Star Citizen on the channel, you better watch out because you're getting beat by all the other content right now. So you definitely deserve a shame. This is like a father. It's what a father does.
Shame.
It's what a father does.
Shame. Shame.
This is how I instruct all my children, with shame. Okay? Now, I got great results from that. And now I'm going to daddy you. I'm daddying you right now. I'm daddying all of you. Yeah. Yeah. You better like it. You better share it. You better watch it. Why did I turn that sexual? I'm sorry, Pepe. That was disgusting. I don't know. Next.